John Robitaille in studio. John, Republican candidate, you came so close. You surged at perfect timing, got the money. I've had you in here, off air. I would encourage you. You got to attack these guys. I know even other people, you got to attack them. John Robitaille said, no, I'm going to run my style campaign. And with your wife, Linda, who worked, the two of you so hard, and also, well, I call him Vic, but I know it's Michael Napolitano. You say you thank your team, but these were three people that came together. I know you had a lot of volunteers, a lot of enthusiasm. I just give you so much credit, and what you accomplished was amazing. And I know it's little consolation. You were so close. Little more money, couple more days, you'd be the governor right now.
Yeah, John, this is not about John Robitaille. This is about running a campaign on the principles, the concepts, the ideas that we need to save the state of Rhode Island. And going forward...
is it any consolation Amy Rice lost? Because it is
yes,
to me.
Go Dan Riley.
Her losing, Chuck Levesque losing, and there was a lot of good news out of this.
There was. No,
but I also want to say, you say it's not about you. Well, it was about you, because initially, and we were off air, you said a lot of people didn't give you a chance. You've not held elective office.
Correct.
Plus, we've had 8 years of a Republican governor, and coming from the Kacheri administration, it wasn't so much about you. This election had a lot of different dynamics to it.
Absolutely.
And we can touch on it. But it became about John Robitaille because you kept the same message and people believing in you. Yeah. When I saw you, just on the clips because we're running around, but that had to have been a great moment. That Monday, when I had you in the week before the election, you said, I'm telling you, I can feel it. And the Republican Governors Association came in with the money. And then as the front page of this morning's paper, which I'll show again, have fifth time in a row above the fold, the famous shove it comment that Frank Caprio made. And you also did a tremendous job at Rhode Island College, that Channel 10 debate. You and your wife are so personable to my little 11-year-old. She's like, I love that John Robitaille. But the bottom line is, when you were there in Mitt Romney, the look in your eye, it seemed like you could feel that this really was going to happen.
Yeah, there was a tremendous shift in the last 2 weeks.
Oh, my God.
In fact, the shift started before Frank's gaffe. We were seeing it in the polls, and I'm sure he was too.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why he made the grab that he did to try to pull really hard right and right on the anti-Obama polling that was taking place.
Across the country, the word went out, undecideds wanted an outsider.
Right.
And that was John Robitaille.
Yeah.
And for the Caprio campaign, suddenly they weren't that's what people were looking for.
Yeah. The dynamics of this race, John, as you well know, we had Link Chafee, who ultimately won with 36% of the votes, a former Republican running as a far left progressive. I mean, courting the unions, courting the illegals. You had Frank, Frank's biggest problem was, he was a traditional Democrat trying to run as a conservative, but he lost his center. He lost his base. Your platform with his, although different, financially, physically, it wasn't that much different. He ran a very unconventional campaign. He came out going for small business. Most of the time, Democrats don't do that. You think of the Fogarty campaign of 2006 compared to Caprio. Right.
He actually ran more as a Republican, and then you caught him coming up towards the end. But I don't mean this in any disrespect to Governor-elect Chafee, but I can't stand these people that say, and I heard this last night on Live Experiment, I don't know why Hummel, I'm going to be on next week, and maybe I'll address this once and for all, but this business of, I guess people voted for higher taxes. No, they did not.
No.
John Robitaille plus Frank Caprio plus Ken Block is over 60% that said we don't want higher taxes.
That's exactly right.
It's just this Rhode Island being Rhode Island. In my column this morning, golocalprov.com, I mentioned we're resembling Gilligan's Island at this point, which is a group of people trying to, the castaways, get off the island, and then there's no attempt. People did not vote for higher taxes. The way the field was split, if you had a Patrick Lynch type of Democrat, you'd be the governor right now. If Caprio had just been a little more liberal and Ken Block not in the race, I'd be congratulating John Robitaille, Governor Robitaille, and First Lady Linda.
And she would have made an awesome
would
first
have
lady.
been an unbelievable.
She is so passionate to get
That's a
things
separate
done.
book.
That's a separate book.
That's a separate book. I still think there should be a crew follow her around reality show, but that's my idea that no one can now steal. But John, what do you want to say? I mean, so many people came out. Here's something I do. Why did you concede so early?
Well, we looked at the numbers. We were at that point, I think, 6,000 down. We looked at the precincts that were still yet to be reported. We knew we weren't going to win those precincts, and then we looked at the number of mail-in ballots, and traditionally where they would fall. We figured we'd get about a third of them, and we did. We added up the numbers several different ways, and we knew at that point we weren't going to win. And people were saying, "Well, gee, do you want to give your concession before or after the 11 o'clock news?"
Exactly.
And I said no. I said I'm not going to deprive him of that.
But people were booing you when you conceded.
That's okay. I did the right thing, John. Look, my campaign was about doing the right thing. And we
That's
had
your
a
problem.
message. No, it's not. We weren't going to go on the attack mode. I absolutely refused any suggestion of attacking the other candidates. We did not do it. We ran some contrast ads, basically, but they weren't attack ads. I stayed on message, and we knew that as far back as June, when we ran some baseline polling, that we could win this. And those planets needed to align. They were aligning at the end, but there was one planet that didn't quite move over. And we sort of underestimated the impact of Ken Block. I thought that Ken would take more away from Link because of his very liberal social stands on those issues. But Ken ended up taking a lot of votes that I would have gotten had he not, because Ken's strength towards the end also was very fiscally strong from a conservative perspective.
His closing argument, that Channel 10 debate, was his best yet.
Yes, it was.
In fact, the Channel 10 debate he was dealing with, he lost his mother that day.
I know.
And that was his best debate performance. He was unbelievable. He got very emotional at the end because I think he was thinking of the significance of it.
Yeah. But John, I was, even on Election Day, Linda and I worked the polls all across the country, across the state, and people were coming up to me saying, "I'm walking in. I know I don't want Chafee. I don't want Caprio. It's between you and Block. Convince me to vote for you." Time and time and time again.
Wow.
So that told me that before it was should I vote for Caprio or Robitaille. Towards the end, it was should I vote for Robitaille or Block. So. Ken did have an impact in my race, and also I think Chris Little had an impact in Eric Wallen's race.
I had a caller who said, in his mind, and I like Ken Block, and I've gotten a lot of respect for him. I have, but someone that called up said, take the moderate party demolished the election. If you take Ken Block out of the mix and Chris Little, it's Governor Robitaille and Attorney General Wallen, and it's tough to argue with that.
Yeah, because Ken,
and that's a problem.
Ken got over 20,000 votes, and when you look at the spread, I mean, I lost by 7,000, 8,000 votes.
2.5 points, 2 points.
2.5%.
Yeah.
Even if I only got half, if I got half of those votes that Ken got, I would have won. But the shoulda, coulda, wouldas are.
I understand, but it's a lot that people have to examine in going forward, because Governor Chafee is going to have a very difficult time governing. And I don't think, this business of now it's time for everyone to rally together. I'm going to be the first one. I disagree. And I don't, name one time, Bob Walsh was one of his advisors, name one time that those organizations have done what's right for the state. No, never. No. Did they ever rally around Governor Kachiri?
No, not at all.
Never. Zero. So why now would everyone suddenly rally around them? I'm also looking at, Providence Journal did the map of, you want to talk about red and blue. It's more red than blue. John Robitaille won Burrillville, Gloucester, Smithfield, Woonsocket, Cumberland, Lincoln, North Smithfield, Foster, Scituate, Coventry, West Greenwich, East Greenwich, Tiverton, Richmond, Exeter, Hopkinton. The Chafee campaign just carried along the coastline, of which the Chafee name is strong for the open space and so forth, and really the inner city, which traditionally goes Democrat.
He crushed in Providence.
He did.
Yep.
Yeah, of which there's a front page story this morning that talks about that.
Sure.
That even, the Caprio campaign, whether it was at the last minute or whatever it was. But this business of now it's time, all hands in the middle, I don't think it's going to happen, because people overwhelmingly voted, no, we don't want higher taxes. So I don't think the single platform he ran on, I don't think it did resonate.
No, I don't think so either. And, when you look at the early polling, Link had 35% of the vote early on.
Yeah.
He had maxed out when he started.
That's
and
right.
The real game was who was going to get the rest between Frank, myself, and Ken. And
as I mentioned yesterday, Bob Healy got more votes.
Yeah.
He got a higher percentage than Link Chafee.
Yeah.
And he went down, in defeat.
Yeah.
So let me squeeze in Steve from Barrington, who wants to call into John Robitaille that just took the state by storm. Steve's on WPRO. How you doing, Steve?
Good. How are you, John?
Say hi to John Robitaille.
How are you, John?
I'm doing great, Steve. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you. Two things. The first one doesn't concern you. Chafee is a moron.
Right there. Hold on. I'm not, we're not going to entertain that. He's the governor. There's no room for that. There's other shows you can call and get away for that. Before we go to a break, will you run again?
It's too early to say, but John, you can count on the fact that John Robitaille is going to stay committed to reforming and making sure that Rhode Island gets back on the right track. I don't know whether that will be in the political sector or the private sector. There's a lot of fight left in me, and
well, now people know who you are. They like what they heard.
Yeah.
You won a huge bulk of the state. I envision either a Tea Party rally or some gathering at the State House. And when they begin to say your name, you can't even hear the end of it because of this thunderous applause. I mean, you and John Laughlin and Catherine Taylor take over and really are the head of the Republican Party in Rhode Island, as governor, which is good for Governor Kucheri.
Yeah, we will be meeting shortly. I want to bring the group together and talk about where we go and what our plan for 2012 is.